Hey, Mamvi. Hey, Fuji. Nice to see you guys again. And
Hi.
hi, everyone from across the world. Thank you for joining us again for this session. Welcome. So our session is where we're going to share with you the latest developments in counting snow leopards and dive more into the science. So this session is called PAWS. So like a snow leopard paw, counting the world's snow leopards. So PAWS is a major collaborative effort bringing together all snow leopard range countries with the goal of estimating how many snow leopards remain in the world. And this is not an easy task by any means. So my name is Justine Shanti Alexander. I'm the regional ecologist for the Snow Leopard Trust and the director of the Snow Leopard Network. I've been supporting the PAWS initiative for the past few years, coordinating some of the efforts across the range countries. And I'm joined today by Puji, research and monitoring manager at the Snow Leopard Conservation Foundation, Mongolia. She has worked over 10 years on snow leopard conservation in Mongolia and has been part of a recent extraordinary initiative in terms of counting how many snow leopards are across the country of Mongolia, which she will share more about with you today. And we also have Manvi, research associate at the Nature Conservation Foundation, India. So Manvi brings some high-level technical support to the PAWS initiative as a data analyst and scientist working on data from India and across the range. So today, I'll first introduce you to the PAWS initiative, its concepts, why it's needed. Puji will then share more with you about collecting data in the field and showcase how teams in Mongolia have covered huge areas in terms of assessing snow leopards distributions and numbers. And finally, Manvi will bring this all together and share with you how do we get to a snow leopard estimate. So as we go along, please feel free to write in the comments or questions in the chat window, and we'll try to answer all of your questions at the end of the session and have a really nice discussion about this work. So without any ado, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, I think everyone can see my screen. So PAWS. Why is PAWS important? Well, numbers present an incredible tool for communication to drive the message home. And whether it's a politician, taxi driver, maybe your local baker, where you get your croissants, like here in France, the first question we often get asked if you're working in snow leopard conservation is how many snow leopards are left? And where are they? Essentially, to get to a number, the task on our hands is to estimate how many snow leopards are found across 12 countries in Asia. So in orange, you'll see this is the predicted distribution. We're not actually sure of how accurate it is, but it's to some extent predict where they might be. And this whole area covers up to 1 to 2 million square kilometers. So 1 to 2 million square kilometers across high altitude areas and rugged lower altitude areas of mountainous of Asia. And it's not an easy task. As many of you know, snow leopards live in some of the harshest environments in the world, with elevations ranging from high altitude mountains of the Tibetan Plateau, which are around 5,000 meters, which is approximately 17,000 feet. And what people also don't realize is that snow leopards also occur at lower elevations in the South Gobi, for example, of Mongolia, or the Russian Altai, which range from like around 1,000 meters, which is around 3,000 feet. The snow leopard's preferred habitat are the steep, rugged, rocky terrain where they can stalk and ambush their favorite prey, the ibex or the blue sheep. And snow leopards occur at very low densities, with less than 1 snow leopard per 100 kilometers squared in most survey areas. So encounters are naturally rare, but if we did encounter one, we may not even spot it. Because as many of you know, snow leopards can be shy and elusive. And against this backdrop of like gray and yellowish rock, the snow leopard almost becomes invisible, even to the trained eye. So here, this is just a picture, a camera trap picture of a snow leopard. Can you see the snow leopard? It's quite visible, but maybe you see it in the bottom right corner of the picture. And why I show you this picture is I was actually sitting as a spotter up here where you see in this arrow is pointing. And this snow leopard called the Dude walked by at 2 p.m. and I didn't see it. And not only did I not see it, our colleague was sitting only a few meters away at the same time looking out, spotting as well. And he also didn't see it. So even the trained eye, and trust me, we normally do see these cats when they walk by, or ibex in the distance. So this is perhaps what partly inspired Peter Madison's famous line, "Have you seen a snow leopard? No." Isn't that wonderful? But there's good news. For our task of counting the world's snow leopard numbers, thanks to new developments in new technologies such as automatic camera traps, we're slowly getting a glimpse into the lives of the elusive big cat. And with new technologies and advances in statistical techniques, reliable methods to estimate snow leopard populations robustly have never been so close. So here's a picture of a camera trap with the snow leopard around 8 years ago. And now the camera traps with the same model are half the size. So technology is moving quite fast. And many of you might recollect that snow leopards were downlisted by the IUCN in 2017 from endangered to vulnerable. This downlisting instigated governments of the snow leopard range countries, not just one, but all 12 countries, to ask the question, how many snow leopards do we have? And have their populations improved? In response, all governments of snow leopard range countries endorsed the Bishkek Declaration in 2017. So this declaration highlights the need for better snow leopard population estimates, which started the launch of the PAWS initiative. So a secretariat was assigned the task of developing a collaborative framework for PAWS. And how do we turn PAWS into action? Well, I believe it comes under 3 themes. PAWS is made up of the latest science with the support of a help desk from some of the leading scientists from across the world, including scientists such as Puji and Manvi that we have today. We're able to guide some of this work and bring teams together in analyzing the data all together in order to get robust estimates. This work is also about collaborations at all levels, from 12 national governments coming together to different organizations across the range, sharing best practices, agreeing on common methods to make these estimates robust and the same and very similar. And finally, technology. With the latest technologies such as camera traps and DNA sampling, all backed by training, we're able to get finally some of this really important data to start answering the number about abundances. And these 3 themes are what makes PAWS really special and really timely at this moment. But before I pass it on to our colleagues, we'll explain more how PAWS is done in practice, in the field, and analysis. I just wanted to remind you that PAWS is more than just about an estimate. It helps us also redefine where are snow leopards across Asia, and map also some of the threats across the range, and where are there areas that are potentially at higher risk due to threats such as climate change or development or other emerging threats that might come in the future. PAWS is also critical about building capacity across the range, from rangers that are setting up the cameras to national parks across the 12 different countries, to NGOs, to scientists, to young scientists, to at the political level, all these levels. It's about building capacity for the long-term conservation of snow leopards. So I'll leave you here today with a picture here. This is actually Gampa from a ranger in Mongolia, and that me and Puji worked with in terms of setting up some of these cameras. And Puji will share more with you now about recent efforts in Mongolia, where her team has supported surveying and assessing the distribution of snow leopards in a very robust way for the first time across the entire country. So without any ado, I'll pass it over to Puji.
Okay, thank you, Justine. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, hello everybody. Thank you, Justine, and as I'm glad to share you how we are doing in nationwide snow leopard survey in Mongolia. And under the PAWS, Mongolia have done survey of that snow leopard distribution and then ongoing survey of estimation of snow leopard population. On that survey, we have working together several organizations supported by funding from in the WWF Mongolia and the Snow Leopard Trust. Mongolia is, you all know that it's we are a large landlocked country between Russia and China, and then with a sparse population, 3.5 million people live here. Also, Mongolia is the second largest snow leopard country in the world, and the scientists estimated to have 700 to 1,200 individuals in Mongolia. Snow leopard inhabits western to in Altai range, western to southern Mongolia, and the northern side is Altai mountain, in the central part in Hanga mountain. In 2017, WWF Mongolia begin for that snow leopard distribution survey. On that survey, they divided in 12 teams. 12 team is the Mongolian scientists leading of that project. One of the project in the Snow Leopard Trust is the main concern in South Gobi sites. On that survey, all over Mongolia, we divided in 1,200 grids. Each grid has a 20 by 20 square kilometers. And on that grid, people can try to find the snow leopard signs at least 10 to 20 kilometers long. During that surveys, we are in that photo show that in the Gobi areas, we are looking for snow leopard scrapes and poke marks, and then scats. On that survey, we are trying to we spend in at least 1 to 3 months in each team. The whole Mongolia survey, a total about 60 researchers, 126 volunteer rangers, and then also we did 31 drivers and more than 100 local people in auto volunteers participated on that project. And during that, Mongolia has agreed to access snow leopard population in Bishkek meeting. And during that, for the Bishkek meeting, is Mongolia divided for 3 landscapes, which is that in the green on the map, shows that in the green one is South Gobi landscape parts. On that green parts is a Snow Leopard Trust. We are more responsible on those areas. And the whole over there in Mongolia, we divided 1,200 grids. And then a total in 1,017 grids of each is we surveyed. And on that survey, we walked about every team walked about 20,000 kilometers. And then also I told earlier, the average about 10 to 20 kilometers long transect we walked. And then also we found more than 1,500 snow leopard signs on that each grids. all grids. After that collected data is that we have analyzed it. Our data is that the map shows that the snow leopard suitable habitat in Mongolia. It's that potential in a confirmed habitat in it's a result of our collected data one. It's that during that the data we used and also environmental variable, which is the altitude and vegetation cover and terrain ruggedness. We are using the environmental variables to use for how the snow leopard distributed in Mongolia. Our second largest nationwide survey is a camera trapping. On that camera trapping survey in Mongolia is WWF have done so far in the 20 mountains. In snow leopard trust, we have done about the 20 mountains, which is that in 26% of the snow leopard range in Mongolia. Additionally, in it's that those all mountains are only in the high density areas. So additionally in 2020, we are adding in 10 mountains, which is a low and a medium density of a snow leopard being used. And that once it have done is that we will, after that in collecting data, that we will finalize estimation of snow leopard abundance in early 2021. And then in conclusion is that we have done so far in snow leopard distribution mapping in Mongolia, and that camera trapping in snow leopard estimation survey will be done in early 2021. And thank you very much. As now is a man, we will show you all this how we are analyzing snow leopard camera traps. Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Pooji. So while I'm sharing my screen, I thought I'd tell you about how my nephew and we both like to look at snow leopard pictures, and we come up with names for snow leopards. So if I'll be showing you some pictures, and it would be nice if you'd like to put some names for the snow leopards in the chat box. Yes, so Pooji told you about the impressive camera trapping work that's been happening in Mongolia. And I'll now be telling you about how from these snow leopard images, we go to estimates of densities and abundance. So when we are doing camera trapping work at such large scales, at the level of not just a small site, but at landscapes and regions and often countries, we have to deal with thousands of images. And from those images, we filter usually to a few hundred captures of snow leopards. Now, this is a tremendous effort in terms of time and energy, but it's quite an exciting journey, really, because we see very interesting pictures. So here's a snow leopard enjoying a nice scratch. Why don't you suggest a name for this snow leopard in the chat box? And here's another one, enjoying a nice view on a bright sunny morning. But not all our pictures are so lovely. Sometimes we just get a glimpse of a tail or a head or a leg. So if you notice here, we have information about the images on each of the images. So it's really, the images are our raw data, and each image has information about the site, the time the image was taken, and the day the image was taken, and this information is stored as metadata on the image. And we use an image processing software to stick labels to these images. So for example, what species is captured in this image, and for snow leopards we uniquely identify them and we attach that label to the image using these image processing software. Snow leopards are really cool. You can uniquely identify them based on the rosette patterns that are present, on their flanks, on their tail, on their head. We now know that siblings of a family might have similar subsets of rosettes. So we usually look for at least 2 to 3 sets of such patches. We also have we also compare different flanks and use several images for doing image identification. Our team also has this training kit available that was developed by our partners. So you can evaluate yourself, score yourself before actually doing the process of image identification. So it might seem that image identification it's quite straightforward, but it's not the case. Our colleagues in early this year, they found that they did this cool study with snow leopards from a zoo with known individuals. They found that even experts can make image identification errors of up to 12%, and that could have inflated abundances of about 30%. So there is room for error because often images are taken at different angles. So the rosette pattern might look different, and there is room for subjectivity. So this is also where image identification is also where our efforts are focused right now, and we're working on AI-based tools to overcome some of these challenges. And our colleagues also recommend additional rigor in identification at the identification step. So now when we have these images tagged, what we do as the next step is we create a capture history information file, which is basically a file about information on where each snow leopard was captured and how many times it was captured in which camera trap. In addition to that, we have a trap file, which is information on the coordinates of the camera traps. And using these two kinds of information, we use statistically robust models based on capture-recapture theory to get estimates of density and abundance. So very quickly, I'll tell you the simple idea behind the two processes. So the simple idea is that as you move away from the activity center of the snow leopard, the chance of you detecting the snow leopard decreases, and the state, this is modeled, and the state process basically describes how these encounter histories arise in space. So these broad ideas basically help us in accounting for issues that arise for these kinds of data, issues such as missing detecting a snow leopard or the movement of the snow leopard. These are the main issues. Then once we have these estimates, it's important to note that we don't just use estimates from high density areas or areas where the occupancy of snow leopards is supposed to be high and extrapolate that to the entire habitat of snow leopard. It's important to use information from all kinds of habitats of snow leopard to avoid having a biased estimate of snow leopard density. So then this information is used. This is a made up example to show how information from each strata is pooled and used to get abundance for a larger region for the of interest. All these protocols that I've described here, these are standardized and they're streamlined by our partners, where the first step, as Pooji was describing, we start with a map of snow leopard distribution using occupancy methods, and then we carefully do the study design for camera trapping work, then the data collection step and the analysis step to finally get to the estimate. And these methods have been prepared by leading scientists from different organizations across the world. We have statisticians and ecologists on board with us, sharing these tools in a collaborative effort to count the world's snow leopards. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Manvi and Puji, for sharing more on the incredible work that's being done across the range. If anyone has questions, please start writing it in the chat. This is an incredible opportunity. I just wanted to highlight that again, to have us all together here. I have a team from Mongolia, our team from India, and then the regional team all together to discuss PAWS. So I hope actually we can continue this Zoom meeting after, so we can discuss our estimates, because it's a rare opportunity. But so if anyone has questions, please go ahead and we can answer them together and give different insights from across the range. And as we wait for questions, I just wanted to ask Manvi more about these, and Puji as well, if you want to answer after, about these camera trap images. And you said that we get thousands and thousands of images, so it's difficult to process them, right? So we have to develop tools to process them. But also the camera traps themselves are important, right? We need to invest in good quality camera traps, because the photos, the actual photos, need to be very good for the individual identification. So I don't know if you want to share a little bit about that first, Manvi, about the actual camera traps and getting good quality pictures?
Yes, thanks, Justine. So we're as you know, all the partners are discussing about scaling up efforts, and we are now looking at large scale regional estimates. So there are going to be thousands of images that we will be handling. And like Justine, you were saying, because we need to individually identify these snow leopards, we need high quality images, and we need cameras that can take these high quality images even in poor light, because snow leopards are active at the night. So we really need more cameras which can take these good quality images.
Thanks, Manvi. Anything to add, Puji?
In my experience, that when we set up the cameras, we usually use the high quality one. Otherwise, when I use the low quality cameras, it's that Snow Leopard. Justine and Manvi mentioned is that we try to identify for spots. So in a good quality cameras give us the good results. So, and then thousands photos we have taking of that, it's just maybe 10,000 photos, maybe just in maybe 10% of it's a snow leopard photos, which have to be the good quality one.
Yeah, because they can move really fast, right? And I think you mentioned this earlier, Puji, sometimes the cub will play around with the camera. They're moving really fast and you can't really see it because the cub's paw is there and the head is like smooshing. So we need to, we try not only the cameras, but how we set up the cameras is important, right? So I don't know if you guys can share a little bit, maybe to Puji, can you share first, like how do you choose locations to set up these cameras? Because snow leopards are so rare, as I just shared, they live at such low densities. So how do you ensure you actually get pictures in the first place?
Yeah, and we usually, before go to the field, we usually see that in the map of the mountain, and the once reach the mountain is we will look around of that in the habitat, in okay, which place we should go first start, and then in the climb of the mountain, find out the good ridge line or good valley or good cliff, and then we start at snow leopard, put there in the cameras. But it's the first finding in a snow leopard scripts that should be the fresh one, which gives to increase the chance of the snow leopard captures the more often. That's why it's looking for, we usually try to find out that new scrapes on the mountain. Yeah.
Yeah, and when it scrapes its back legs, right, and go, and then a sign, right, a marking.
Yeah, snow leopards usually leave their mark. That's what we call the scrapes and the scats, and then pug marks. They have a special trail because snow leopard have a special trail, usually in a ridge line, in a valley, near to the big rocks. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can predict where to go. Thanks, guys. So actually, we have another picture, another question. The questions are now coming in, so we'll go straight to the chat. And one question from Tamar is asking, how do you recognize snow leopard individuals from like a partial image, if you have like just the tail or just a leg? So I don't know, Manvi, if you want to answer this question.
Yes. So we usually, we would mark that image as unidentifiable unless it has some very unique pattern, like merged rosette patterns, which are just so rare to see. So, but otherwise we would we err on the side of caution and we discard that image.
Because you shared also, I don't know if you just mentioned it, that sometimes we predict that in some either closed populations, they might inherit some spot patterns, right? So we might make a mistake in terms of close family units.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what we hypothesize, at least.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah, we need usually to look when identifying individuals is that expert needs to look through that, and at least the 3 spots, maybe head, and then the big body, and then leg, and then also tail. It needs to compare at least the 3 parts.
Yeah, but what's really nice, especially these long-term sites that many of our teams from the Snow Leopard Trust are working at, is we have data across many years, right? So we really get to know our snow leopards. We get to know the face, the body, the back, because we keep our cameras monitoring every year. Yeah. So that really helps as well, because then we get a really nice database of all our snow leopards and where they are as well in their GPS. So just to move to another really nice question from Deborah Troy, she's asking about other carnivores. So that's a really good point, Deborah. The PAWS initiative has all these other potential benefits. It's not all about just getting a snow leopard number. It's also related to understanding snow leopard trends, because we'll probably repeat that effort in 5 years. And governments will agree. I mean, that's the idea, is to understanding the status of the species. But also it's about building capacity. It has many other benefits. And one of them is also related to other species that will be surveyed, rare species, high mountain rare species. So I don't know if Pooji, you want to share a little bit about some rare species in the South Gobi that you're also capturing on your camera traps?
Yeah, we captured many various type of other species in our snow leopard cameras, and in the Gobi areas is we captured is a pascat, and then lynx, and just recently we captured in a Gobi bear, and also the wild camel. It's really in the Gobi bear is really rare, very rare. In the world. We just left in 30 individuals in Mongolia, and also we have captured, lynx and the marten, and sometimes there's a wolf. Also, we captured wild ass. It's
many species. And Manvi, what about in North India?
Yes. So since this was an immense effort that we did in the Trans-Himalayan region, we have an exhaustive list of small carnivore species. So we have we have the stone marten, the yellow-throated marten, and we have bears, a brown bear. Then there are so many captures of red foxes. It's just amazing, and there seems to be some structuring in these communities. So it's not just a detection. We are also looking at patterns of how these communities, carnivore communities, might be shaped in the Trans-Himalayan region. Yes.
Yeah, that's actually, I wanted to ask you guys about that, because there are students and our researchers that are using some of this bycatch data that are, aimed for snow leopards, but we actually have so much data, and they're using it to study those species or the actual structure of the carnivore community. So I don't know if Mamvi, you can share a little bit more about some of these this research, and then we'll ask Puji also what's happening in Mongolia.
Yeah, so there's there are some patterns that we think might be happening related to co-occurrence of red foxes, martens, and snow leopards. So that's an interesting question that we are pursuing. A PhD student is pursuing right now, and that's just that's just the data that we've scraped just so far, and from only 2 sites, and there are 10 sites that we have sampled. We're going to explore some more of these relationships soon. Justine, you're on mute. Yes.
Yeah. In Mongolia, in our camera traps, we in a high mountain. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Justin says something, so I just don't. Okay. In Mongolia, on our camera traps, we, is in a high mountain. It's not, this habitat is not just the snow leopard. It's in lots of animals sharing in that land. It's a predator, heavy herbivores, and then all other small mammals too. And that in Mongolia South Gobi sense, we have captured in is there some other places is really good in the PAWS cats. In that PAWS cat photos is amazing in the one part of that mountain. It's that PAWS cat is not just like in the one part of the mountain. Other is a little further, maybe 50 to 60 kilometers from that mountain. It's not their PAWS cat, something like that, because depending on the maybe soil structure or maybe some, then there is a food, something like the food sources, something like that. And then also for the camera traps, we can see that snow leopard, maybe some in behavioral things. You can see that in how they react of that infrared lights, and then also how they react of maybe they can see that in some cameras in the watching on his trail, something like that. It's we can see from the cameras lots of other stuff.
Yeah, other questions. Thank you. Thanks, Puji and Mamvi. I think, the other understanding species like PAWS cats, where we barely have any data, especially from Mongolia and Central Asia, is really important as well. So it's fascinating that we're getting some of this data. So, but going back to snow leopards, we have a great question from Joanna VG, who's asking about how many snow leopards, how many camera traps do we really need in one area? And she's asking, say, if you want to monitor 100 square kilometers. And just to let you know, Joanna, actually the PAWS recommendations recommend that you need to cover at least 1,000, well, 500 to 1,000, but preferably over 1,000 kilometers in one survey site. So as you can imagine, that's a huge area to set up all your cameras in one survey site and then leave them for 3 months in that site. So I don't know if Mamvi, you want to share more about that. She's asking how many cameras maybe you need to cover that one area.
Yeah, so we use about 30 to around 30 camera traps for one site, which is the size of what Justine's mentioning. And it's it would be nice to have more camera traps, because we do these we do these surveys. It would be nice to do them simultaneously at multiple sites together, but we finish one survey and then reuse those camera traps again for a different sites. Yeah.
Yeah, Pooji, can you tell us about how many sites that you guys cover per year, your team in the South Gobi?
Our team, we spent, we just set up the cameras 6 to 8 mountains a year. It's one area, one mountain, we set up about 40 cameras until 3 months. And then so far is we have done is 20 mountains. It's we have about 90 cameras now, and then we are shifting in 90 cameras, 40, 45, and then shifting one mountain to another mountain after 3 months. And then I was, yeah, that's a good question. I was trying to calculate how many cameras we need, and it was a lot. Yeah, it's impossible to buy all of them, but it's luckily in Mongolia is a huge landscape of snow leopard. It's the second largest population in Mongolia in the world. So, and then some other organization is they are taking care of that in the western side. Some other organization is other parts. And the Snow Leopard Trust is that we are taking care of in the South Gobi landscape, the south side of Mongolia is the lowest level high mountain. But it's still that 90 cameras. It's still we have we need them more. Otherwise, it's every time in the camera, when we set up the cameras, at least 2-3 cameras are broken every time. So in the we need to rechange it and try to fix it. And then also we are trying to buy, in the camera trap main important things is the batches. And then, yeah, so it's a need, always needs to be in more cameras.
Yeah, because what's always so impressed me though with those 80 cameras and I think the India team, Manvi's team, it's similar. You're using some of the same cameras used 10 years ago yes. In 2008, and those cameras are still being used. And so I think we value, how this is a huge investment for our teams, right? And then it can be used for the whole 10 years and well planned cover. I think per year at least in Mongolia, we cover over 8,000 kilometers squared, more than 8,000 kilometers squared in 1 year with just these 80 cameras. So I think it just shows how you can do so much with will and with the good, guidance of different methods, and then to survey snow leopards in the long term, and every year those same areas to know how the population is doing. So we have a few more questions here. So one question again from Tamar is, do you change the camera trap placement because of the territorial behavior of the cats? So potentially between years or between season, would you need to change the camera trap location? So maybe Pooji, do you want to answer that?
Sure. Yeah, it's right. And then when we set up the cameras in the first year, we try to after collected data is we look through in our data, and then if the specific locations we didn't capture snow leopard, the next year when you turn second year, we need to change that location a little bit, different places.
To increase our detection, yeah, because
yes.
we get so few pictures. We want to ensure we get the more the next year. We don't take the risk. Change it up. Do you have anything to add, Manvi?
No, that's good. The point is to maximize detection locally. Yes.
Okay, and so someone is asking, when you do, another thing about the data collection, if you have 30 cameras or 40 cameras in 1,000 square kilometers, this is Nina's question, how do you actually pick up the data from those camera traps? Is it sent automatically through Wi-Fi or a satellite, or do teams have to go back and collect the camera traps? Puji, I'll let you answer that.
In Mongolia, we usually, when we are joining with the national park or maybe locals, and then some rangers is joining in one mountain, and then after 3 months, that person needs to collect that cameras after 3 months. And the once that camera collected, he or she is sent to our main office. We will collect the data ourselves in our computers. Otherwise, now recently we don't have yet that remote memory downloading, and then because it's in Mongolia, and especially in the countryside, it's from the city, 100 kilometers from here. It's impossible right now. We don't have internet internet connection there.
Or phone signal, right?
Yeah, it's a really remote area.
Yeah. And then another question for you, Manvi, to go back to PAWS in terms of, because, we've talked about in India, in Mongolia, we have a lot of data, right? Large areas are being surveyed annually, over 20 mountains by the Snow Leopard Trust, 40 mountains in the whole of the country, at least, Puji mentioned. So why can't we just use what we already have, what we've already surveyed, to get an estimate from Mongolia? Why do we have to continue? Why is Puji, I know you mentioned this in a talk, but maybe you can reiterate why we still actually need to go out to new areas to get a more robust estimate.
Yes. So as Puji was mentioning in her talk briefly, that the current sampling for the camera trapping work that has happened, it's mostly from sites that have high probability of occupancy. So it's important to have representation from all kinds of snow leopard habitats, the medium occupancy habitats and low occupancy habitats also, so that we don't have an inflated estimate, an overestimate of the snow leopard density. So that representative sampling is important to have an unbiased or a less biased estimate.
Yeah, thank you, Manvi. That was very, very well explained. And in the past, as researchers, we used to choose areas, we'd get pictures, right? You don't choose the areas that are no leopards or low density because you don't get pictures. So maybe we have biased our way we've chosen our sites in the past. So before we end, we're almost out of time. I don't know if any of you two have any comments you want to share with our people watching from across the world. Any last things to share? Maybe go first, Manvi, and then we'll go to Puji.
Thank you for joining us today, and thank you for supporting us. It was a pleasure interacting with you. Thanks.
Yeah, me too. And thank you very much watching us, and then heard about our camera trap walk. And then thank you very much all your supports on that incredible walk in all over the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Manvi and Puji, and thank you everyone again for joining us. I think the PAWS initiative is very ambitious, but it also has so many kind of rolling benefits for people, the capacity for different teams, understanding threats, understanding numbers, looking at trends, how populations are doing, and also developing the legal side. If we know the state of the snow leopard, that will inform at national level whether they'll be protected or more protected or less protected. So it's so important. It's not only about a number, it's so important for the species conservation on the ground, but also at the global level. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us so we could share a little bit about this work and kind of break it down a bit. But before you leave, please consider making a small donation to keep PAWS moving forward. You'll see the small button at the left side. I think it looks like a little pig. It's a bit hidden, so you can go there and try to click it and make a small donation. With just $500, we can buy another camera trap to support this work. And with just $50, it funds another day of surveying in the field. So please support our teams, and we'll keep you updated on the PAWS effort as it evolves over the next 2 years, and share more stories. But next, coming up, we have another presentation about Mongolia, and shared by our experts, Gustav and Orion, and actually myself. And